Hey everybody, how we doing tonight? Hey Mud Rabbit, I saw you just popped into the chat. I got a new guest with us tonight. Goes by the name of Billy Elder. And how you doing tonight, Billy?
I'm doing awesome.
Good. And I put out a message on the experiencer site for California, and you reached back out to me, and we just kind of did a little pre-interview, and I was like, oh my god, I got to get this guy on here. I want to hear more about this story, and yeah, I appreciate you reaching back out to me and giving us this opportunity to hear everything.
Absolutely. No, I think that each experiencer's story is important, and getting it out is really, especially right now where it seems like it's all ramping up.
Oh yeah, I mean, and well, it's ramping up, but we were just talking about it's at a trickle rate, though, the way that we actually see it, unless these experiencers are coming out and saying it, because that's the only way we're getting it is from
Right.
people's actual accounts and stories.
Right.
I also wanted to thank West Haven for sharing out the video. I appreciate it. But yeah, I don't know where you want to start. We can start at the younger years and see kind of a timeline of what occurred.
I would say that the timeline starts probably at about 4 or 5, and that
Well,
begins.
give us a little backstory about yourself too. You said your family was military and you were actually growing up on a different area than most kids would grow up. You were growing up on a base, right?
Well, actually, until I was 7, we weren't military. So
Oh, okay.
I was living in Walla Walla, Washington, and there was nothing. There's other than Bugs Bunny occasionally mentioning it. There's nothing particularly special about Walla Walla, other than it has sweet onions.
Okay.
And I mentioned that because this stuff started in a place where I have not met another experiencer in the area other than myself and the people who experienced some of the stuff with me. And
Mhm.
so there's not a bunch of people sitting here that have spoken out, anyways, talking about seeing UFOs and having experiences. So I was like, I found that out more as an adult. But as a child, it was about 4 or 5. Um, I walked down the hallway and into my bedroom, not my living room. And I looked out the window, and it was one of the common things that I see, which is a glowing orange orb, just kind of hovering outside the window. And
What would you call it size wise? Like a smaller orb? Was there any perspective when you were looking out the window, or was it up pretty high?
it would have to be about the size of maybe 2 basketballs combined.
Okay.
I mean, it was larger than a basketball, but not huge.
So how far away from your window then? Because that would make you seem like it was pretty close.
Probably about 5 to 7 feet.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it wasn't far at all. And I remember I wasn't afraid in the sense of, oh wow, this is terrifying. I was afraid in the sense of, oh wow, what is that? And I ran and got my dad, and of course, by the time I got back, it was gone. But that's when the weird stuff really started to start happening around me. Um, a lot of missing time, just weird PK stuff. And when I say PK, I mean psychokinetic stuff moving. That started happening around then.
Did you feel like you were in control over it, or it was happening around you?
When it first started, it definitely was just happening around me. We moved out of that house into a new house, and I was scared to death of our bedroom. And there was really nothing to be scared of in there in a logical sense. But I felt like there was something in there, and I couldn't get my parents to understand. No, there's something wrong here. Of course, because I was a little kid, and I remember that one night I was laying on the bottom bunk of the bunk bed, and something reached out and grabbed my arm, and it came from the side that was in the room. And I remember I just threw myself off the bed towards the door, kind of yelled as loud as I could. And my mom was just furious because, here I am not in bed. I'm getting in touch for this. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. Something touched me. That was a real common occurrence, was feeling a hand on my shoulder or my arm, and the hand only had 3 fingers.
I was just going to ask, what would you describe the hand as? It in 3 fingers. Did it have a texture like a human hand, or was it different? Cold to the touch, warm to the touch?
It was cold to the touch and more leathery.
Interesting.
It was more leathery, and when it would touch me, it would startle me awake. And I usually try to pretend like I hadn't noticed it was there, because it's like, if I pretend this isn't here, it's going to go away.
Right.
And then
you can't see me.
Yeah, if it's not there, I don't have to deal with this. But then I'd wake up in the morning absolutely exhausted, like I had been awake all night. On about 7 years old, my dad joined the Army, and that's when we moved to the military town of Hinesville, Georgia, Fort Stewart, Georgia. And that's when everything really ramped up and picked up for seeing UFOs and unexplained things in the sky. But I don't know how much of that is attributed to the fact it was a military base, and how much of that was me seeing stuff that was legit UFO activity. Because you're going to see strange things on a military base.
Oh, yeah. There's already things going on overhead. You're distracting more attention with it being a base.
Yeah, absolutely. We didn't move on to the post immediately. We were living off base in the little town around it, and that was when I first got the introduction to the idea that what I was experiencing may have been an alien or some sort of extraterrestrial entity. And I won't lie, it totally colored my vision of what was happening to me. As a child, I was watching Unsolved Mysteries with my mom, and it aired one of the episodes about somebody's abduction experience and seeing the UFO and going through the whole thing. And I turned to my mom and I said, Mom, that's what I've been trying to tell you. That's what's been happening to me. When I go someplace and I don't come home on time, sometimes it's because I don't know where I'm at.
Yeah, and you can't explain the lack. You were talking to me about it, the lack of time. But first, I wanted to tell you, you reminded me. That was my favorite thing to do with my mom, was to cuddle up at night. We'd watch Lifetime, because that's where they had Unsolved Mysteries at the time. Yeah. And we'd always watch Lifetime and cuddle up in the bed. And that's how I got introduced to Unsolved Mysteries as well.
Absolutely, Unsolved Mysteries was awesome.
We used to always make cracks at the guy Robert Schoch or Schoch.
Yeah,
the original guy. I can't remember his name, but at the end he would always give out the website, and I would just love hearing him say www when he was giving out the web address.
He was so scary, he'd be talking about this scary stuff and he'd just be all stoic, and you're like, dang.
Well, I was glad they did a few sci-fi and paranormal ones as well, and it wasn't just all true crimes and stuff like that. It was fun that they dabbled in a little bit of everything.
They did, because by doing that, I started looking into it more and
But
more.
when you pointed that out to your mom, did she acknowledge it, or was it kind of brushed off, or what happened with it?
She acknowledged that something was happening. I don't think at that moment she was willing to say, "Oh, that was definitely aliens taking you." She's like, "Yeah, something's going on, but I don't know what it is." And then, in the course of the same year, we moved to a second trailer in the same trailer park, and then Desert Storm, Desert Shield started, and my dad went off to war. And that was shortly after we moved on base. And on base was when really weird stuff started to happen. And some of this crosses over with paranormal activity, like, yes, I don't know, yeah, Space Invaders, yes. Some of the activity crossed over into like some poltergeist activity.
Oh.
Um, we
Do you think it was the location, or did you think it was just you're picking up something else?
I think it may have been location.
Okay.
That it was a fourplex of apartments, and the whole apartment complex seemed to have weird stuff going on in it. It was during the war, and the apartment directly across from us was not abandoned, but she had gone home to her families while her husband was away at war. We would hear stuff moving over there all the time. We would go
Just
over
empty
there,
apartment,
just
stuff
empty,
sliding around.
just stuff sliding around, cupboards opening and closing, lights turning off and on. We'd go in there with the key she left us to make sure everything was okay. We'd go in, nothing. But the cupboards would be open and stuff would be moved, but there would be nobody in there, and the doors would still be locked.
Oh, that's creepy. And nothing missing?
Nothing missing. Nothing. I mean, and they had TV, VCR, jewelry. I mean, she didn't pack up the whole house just because. And so we were just waiting for something to make sense with like a robber or something. And our neighbor, Catherine, who lived above her, called us one night and said, "I hear somebody moving around in Ruth's apartment." And so, of course, me and my brother, being the men in the apartment building, went over to go investigate, and there was nothing there. And so my brother goes back into our apartment, and I remember coming out of the apartment, and I looked up, and there was just this beautiful iridescent orb just undulating in the sky. And I'm sitting here going, "Holy crap, I'm seeing a UFO."
Outside in the sky?
Yeah, outside in the sky.
Oh, okay.
I'm like, I'm seeing a UFO with my own two eyes. And again, I went and I told everybody, and of course, by the time they got out there, it was gone. And this was before cell phones and having cameras on you. So,
What can you do? You can't. And I
yeah,
always feel like that when it comes to recordings, even if you get a recording of it, the quality isn't where you want it, and you don't get a lot of perspective with what's going on because it's either too high in the sky or something other than that.
absolutely. That is exactly what happens. It's too far away, and if you zoom in, it's pixelated, and then
Yeah.
you don't know what you're really looking at. Because, and I don't argue the point with a lot of people, but when they see the little lights flashing in the sky that are multicolored, but they zoom all the way in, it's going to pixelate and it's going to look like a bunch of different colors.
Yeah, I mean, you can zoom in once or twice, but if it's moving so fast, you know what I mean. You gotta get that outside perspective as well to see where it's going, what it's doing. Man, most of the time it's just sometimes they're just so zoomed in that you can't get a good take on what you're actually seeing.
Yeah, I have a video. I should have two videos. I'll have to send them to you. I have a video of me and my husband are just driving down the road, and here comes a UFO just out of nowhere. And I just stop the car and I'm like, get your phone out and record this. He's like, okay. So we're sitting here recording just this light. Um, and I
Was
have
that one more like an orb, or was it like a like what the classical UFO type?
that one was like an orb.
Okay.
We saw something that could be a drone, but it was moving awful fast.
Hey, Jesse James, thanks for stopping by. How fast do you think it was moving? Just like going across the sky really quick, or?
Well, we were driving down the highway and it was keeping pace with us. So it looked
Oh,
like
okay.
a drone, but it was keeping pace with the car. So I'm sitting here going, what am I seeing here? Is it perspective? Is it just over there and it looks like it's moving because of the way the trees look? Or is it actually moving? But I was finally in a position to record a couple of strange things in the sky because they happen out here a lot. We moved from Fort Stewart to Fort Sill, Oklahoma. Had to think of the name because it's been a while. I'm actually getting old. And the activity was more, but it was also less flashy. It wasn't stuff moving around in apartments. It was just, seeing a UFO in the sky. There's a little blip of light flashes by, and you're like, oh, it's our neighbors, and you wave, and 30 years later, you're sitting there studying how they'll respond to you, and you're like, oh crap, maybe I shouldn't have been waving at them.
Yeah, that might be a little scarier down the road if you understand it more.
In my 20s,
Maybe they're more interested in you after that.
in my 20s, I took a laser pointer and was communicating with one.
Oh, okay, like Stephen Greer likes to do.
Yeah, it was
The
like,
high intensity lasers.
yeah, 2 flashes, yes, 1 flash, no. Do you understand me? Scared the crap out of myself.
Oh wow! Did you actually get responses?
I was getting responses, and they seemed to be intelligent. And
Oh wow!
I just set out to have.
What kind of questions were you asking?
Do you understand what I'm saying? And it said yes. I'm like, okay, so to test that question, do you understand what I'm saying? And it said yes. My dad's getting ready to walk in the door, so it's going to be loud for a moment.
It's all good.
Oh, hold on.
What kind of dog do you guys got?
We have 2 dogs. Hold on just a moment. The door's locked.
Yeah, anybody that just tuned in, I got Billy Elder here with me tonight. He's talking a little bit about his UFO experiences and just experiences in general that he's had throughout his life, and he's got some interesting stories. I want to hear more about it. He's gotten about up to when he just got moved into the military base with his family, and he was telling his story a little bit. Oh, hey, Montauk Madness. Thank you for dropping in. The one and only Rocco. Hope you're doing good, man. If you get a chance, tune in with us because Billy's got some interesting experiences. Oh, no, you're fine.
Yeah, so absolutely. And I was living on, I should go back. I was living at Fort Stewart when we were living on base there that I had that experience. And I think that was the pre interview, so I need to talk about that experience. I had gotten detention as I was prone to because I was a rotten kid.
Yeah, you were telling me about that one. Okay.
Yeah. And so they held me after.
So elaborate. What if you don't mind elaborating a little bit? What do you mean by a rotten kid? I feel like a lot of kids are rotten until they grow up.
Yeah, as a rotten kid, like one time my teacher told me to shut my mouth, so I stood up and went, ah, just in the
Just doing the exact opposite. Don't push the button. So I
class.
push the button.
She wasn't happy with me. I was that little brat that would do exactly the opposite of what you were told to do. And I look back and I'm just like, oh God.
That's not so bad.
No, that's what I was
That's more kid characteristic though.
we caught the backyard on fire.
Montauk Madness just got in. He's
Yes,
it's Rocco is his name. He's had experiences with the Montauk Project,
okay.
and he was asking. He said, "Were you a military brat?"
Yes, I am. My dad was in the army.
Yeah, he just tuned in, so he missed a little bit of the earlier part. But yes, he was saying he was living on a military base about when 7 years old. You said.
Probably 8 by this time. I'm trying to think if it was second grade or third grade by this point. Because I was always in detention, so keeping them straight was hard. Um, and I was kept after school long enough to let the older kids leave so they wouldn't mess with the little kid. You know, older kids are prone to these things. And so I was walking home alone, and it was only like 4 blocks home. But I remember getting to the second block, and there was just this extreme static sensation all around me. And then the next thing I knew, it was twilight out, and I was waking up on the ground, not knowing where I had been, what had happened, and what was going on. My parents had been looking for me because I never made it home from detention.
Where did you ever figure out where they had looked for you? Did they check back at the school and like everywhere in between? Like, did they,
Hmm.
or did you wake up on one of the routes that they were checking, or do you think they just didn't check where you were at?
They just didn't check where I was at. I wish this was my old computer. I actually had a map of it drawn out that I posted on Experiencers Meet. I was in the wrong direction going from the school. It would be as if I had walked the wrong way heading home.
Okay.
So it's like the UFO dropped me in the wrong playground. That's me making the assumption that this was a UFO.
And that would explain. I mean, and that would explain the lapse in time, the lapse in memory,
Mhm.
and I mean, man, I wonder what the purpose is. I don't know if it's accidental where they put you back in the wrong spot, or if it's just laziness, or you know what I mean. What is the reasoning that they would drop you where they did, and why wouldn't they bring you back to your house, or like I don't know. I just can't figure out why they would take you farther away.
For me, I don't know. Since then, I've had multiple experiences where I have appeared outside the house instead of back inside the house.
Oh
Um,
wow.
and I've been driving and had missing time and just appeared wherever. And I'm like, how did I even get here? And that's real scary because they manipulated me in a car. So they don't have a real reason why they couldn't have put me back in the house. So I really don't have a good answer for why they didn't do it then.
Just an extra layer of
What were they
messing with
doing?
your mind.
Maybe
Gosh.
the technology wasn't good enough yet. It has been 30 years.
Sleepwalking.
Yeah, and I could be sleepwalking too. That is something that I have often thought about. But the last time that I had a notable missing time experience, I got in the car to go to a doctor's office because I had an appointment. I left with plenty of time to get there on time, pulled out, went down the street, and the next thing I remembered, I'm in the town 30 miles away, an hour late for my doctor's appointment, and I can't account for the 2 hours or the hour and 45 minutes that I was driving. Exactly, Mud Rabbit. You wonder how you got where you're going, and if you've been driving the whole time, and if you have been driving the whole time, what happened while you were driving. And they actually took me in and did a CT scan to see if I had had a stroke.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
To explain, that you not remembering it.
yeah. Because I was like, I
So do
really
you think you just gonna go into autopilot at that point, or do you think it's a memory wipe afterwards?
um there's two ways that they've handled things. And I'm gonna say they because I have had encounters with different groups, and they is the aliens.
Okay, well now we're gonna have to unpack that.
We're gonna
What,
have
what do you mean you've had encounters with different groups?
I've had different encounters with different groups of entities.
And you knew they were different species
Yes,
or different, beings?
yes.
What so then you saw them or you just sensed that?
I saw them.
Oh, okay. All right, we'll get there. Oh man, now I have more questions
Yeah.
because that makes me jump into, all right, were they tall? Were they short? Were they reptilian? Where are we at here?
And these beings that I was first having encounters with were not nice. And through some of that regression work that I did in Colorado Springs, I remember some of what they were doing to me. And it was not pleasant memories. But then there were some that were benevolent at the time, who started to kind of passively interfere.
Interfere with you or interfere with society, or what was the end goal?
They were trying to teach people how to prepare themselves psychically to fight back.
Oh, okay. So they're giving humans tools then.
Yes, some of them are. Some of them are not. And it's hard to tell the difference between the different groups because they look so different from us, but they do sometimes look very similar to each other.
Well, you could be given a gift from somebody with higher technology and mistake it for a gift, and they might know exactly what you're going to do with it, and that's their whole intention for giving it to you. I mean, there's a lot of different ways you could think of as not nice or nice. Some of them, I mean, the way we hear about species that try to protect Earth from itself, those are the ones that I think are the nice species, the ones that are shutting down our nuclear bases and doing things like these where we don't allow ourselves to destroy ourselves.
Right, yeah, exactly.
They're buying us a little more time.
Exactly. They're the ones that step in and do that kind of stuff. And you hear stories also of benevolent ones that perform healings. That's pretty cool. Um,
Like what kind of healing? Or are you talking about like med beds?
I have heard stories of people having a lump in their breast, not knowing what it was, and then they have an encounter and the lump is gone. Now, I don't know for sure because I wasn't touching their breast, but it's one of those things where you hear these stories and you're like, I want to believe that, but I don't know. Just like every story I hear, I want to believe it, but some of it is crazy. Of course, then I listen to my own story and I'm like,
This might throw a little loop in what people think of as reality. I could see how anybody could immediately jump to something and calling it crazy if they don't understand it. It's a common tactic.
oh,
It's
absolutely.
a shortcut to thinking too.
It is. It's a shortcut to thinking. I mean, full disclosure, I have bipolar, so I know the difference between having a crazy moment and having a crazy moment. And these moments where I'm like waking up in Walla Walla and it's been 2 hours and I don't know how I got there, that is not a bipolar symptom. And
No,
that just
and
happened.
it's still hard for you to even explain what it was,
Right,
with the lapse in the memory. But you just know what it wasn't.
right. I can tell you that I apparently arrived there safe and was driving safely down the road, but I was not on the correct street to get to the hospital, and I was an hour later than I should have been.
I was gonna say, did you ever check your cars for dings or dents or anything out of the ordinary?
I really truly did, because I was almost certain that if I had just zoned out, I had to have hit somebody or something.
Yeah, I mean that
Uh,
would be the immediate assumption, especially in a blackout type state.
or somebody would have called the cops on me, I would have imagined.
Yeah.
Um, but nothing like that happened, which is even stranger because did they alter everything around me too?
Or were you still traveling? Is the real
Yeah,
question. Were you still traveling and encountering the planet that we're on, or were you actually somewhere else and then you got placed back down?
exactly. It's just
Because if you were traveling, would there be camera footage of you somewhere? Would there be some kind of CCTV, uh, you know, uh, surveillance cameras from a store that you passed or something like that, where they at least identified your car, traveling on this distance,
there would
or
be.
was it just gone?
Right, there would be. And that's the other thing, is that my dad, in the same stretch of highway, had a similar event happen. He went into the next town over on his way to Walla Walla, and he went around the block to get around a truck that was going slow, and suddenly it took him 45 minutes to get out of town.
Oh wow.
And he has no idea why it took so long to get out of that town. That town has like 3,000 people in it. It's just, I don't even know.
Main Street and just stuff around it.
Yeah, I don't even know if it has a stoplight. Yeah, it has one.
Mud Rabbit, that's a good point. She said, the good guys don't interfere with our free will. The bad guys try to take it from us.
Absolutely. Um,
And
I
it's probably easy when you have so many people willing and wanting to see extraterrestrials or, have these experiences. And it's almost like they want to go into it so blindly, and they very well could be tricked, or just like anything else.
I can say from the few that I've either organically remembered or was helped with regression, um, that the negative experiences were truly negative, and I wouldn't wish them on anybody. The more benevolent ones with the positive entities, those were fine. Um, they were just unexpected, I guess would be a good way of putting it.
Well, they'd all be unexpected, but if you got used to the bad, then the good
Yeah,
would be unexpected as well.
yeah, it was an unexpected. I get a ringing in my ears shortly before the negative ETs, if you will, or extra dimensionals, whatever they happen to be, are in the neighborhood. I get this loud ringing in my ears.
Hmm.
And I usually get hit with a wave of nausea. And so there was this one night that was happening, and so I was preparing myself for them to come and try to take me. And on this particular night, there was a white flash of light, and this other entity interfered and stopped them from taking me. And it introduced itself as an angel.
So, okay. And do you think that we talked about this a little bit offline? Do you think that angel type being was dimensional, or do you think it was a traveler in a ship that we think of on our own plane? Or
I think it was extra dimensional.
okay, do you think it was stopping something that wasn't, or do you think it was interfering with something that was also dimensional?
I don't know because it didn't allow whatever was going to happen like normal.
Okay, so no, I just didn't know if you had encountered that species that you considered bad,
I
the negative.
had had similar feelings before. It's like this cold, staticky lack of soul. It just kind of overcomes you.
Did you ever get to see those creatures?
Yes.
What would you describe them as?
Um, they are similar to what most people consider to be a gray alien. You know, that stereotypical elongated head with the large black eyes. And
Okay.
They're not scaly, but they're rougher. You know, it's
Would
not.
you say they were tall, short?
They're shorter than us.
Okay.
I would
Are you under the same philosophy as others about grays being kind of depicted as almost a slave race or a working class species, I guess, or clone-like even?
That would make sense because they're emotionless. It's like they've been stripped of their emotions. They're just there to follow orders.
And how did they communicate with you?
They can speak, but most of it's telepathic.
Oh wow! So they do both.
Yeah.
Is it? Do you think it's? Do they speak just for like a comfort thing for people, or did they speak in English, or did they speak in their own language? They were just talking around you, or
The one that spoke to me was telling me that it was going to be over soon and to relax. So I think that was an attempt at comforting me.
okay.
The telepathic is it's a combination of words and pictures and emotions and ideas all kind of hitting your brain at once. They're very hard to understand sometimes what they're trying to convey. The philosophy I kind of think of as we go out, we help injured animals, we tag them. They don't know who we are. We have technology they don't understand. We're quote, quote, above them.
Yeah.
The same thing. They are experimenting on us in some cases. Some people they've helped, some people they've harmed. And we're just this lower species trying to understand this species with greater advancement than what we have. And some of them, I guess that we couldn't say that it's any worse than running experiments on lab rats and monkeys.
I mean, yeah, we justify the same thing.
I mean, I've heard every excuse, not from them, but from other people, about it being because they can no longer procreate, so they're trying to create hybrids so they can procreate. And I'm like, they need to act.
Yeah, I've heard that depicted a lot too. That they can't procreate themselves anymore, and they have to bring in a new form of reproduction mixed with their own in order to make these hybrids and actually get to a point where they can actually reproduce again.
Exactly.
Hi, Amanda. Thanks
hello.
for dropping in.
And I'm just thinking that they're advanced enough they could ask. But at the same time, are we advanced enough to be able to accept that this alien race is talking to us?
I mean, and we hear stories about this all the time about either people procreating with these species, these aliens, if you will, and then also people getting their babies taken,
right.
In pregnant statuses. It's
right.
Oh, thank you for sharing, Amanda. We appreciate it. Sharing out the video for us. But yeah, I've always heard these things tied to reproduction, and that's also what you hear that's tied in with some of the probing as well. Is they're probing into reproductive type organs, learning. People talk about maybe they took eggs or sperm samples or stuff like that as well.
Right.
So I could see them doing these types of experiments and seeing what's compatible. And I've also even heard the theory that aliens are a future version of humans when they are describing these small grays, like, and they've gotten to a point in lineage where they can no longer reproduce. And it's like, oh, it makes you really wonder about that. I don't remember it's not the Kecksburg incident. I can't remember the one, but it happened on a military base, and a couple of soldiers went up and touched a craft, and then they saw numbers of ones and zeros and ones and zeros.
Right.
And they eventually came out and said that they thought they were future humans coming back and contacting past humans. And I always thought that was an interesting one. And they depicted them as grays as well.
That kind of makes sense in some ways. I think the only thing about that is, well, I don't know for sure. I hope not, because if we've gotten to the point by that time that we're that emotionless, that's going to be sad.
I could see us getting pushed that way though too. I mean, that's always been my philosophy. The more we get into technology and VR and stuff like that, we're eventually never going to leave our apartments again, laying on our back with a feeding tube in our mouth and playing a virtual game where your life is awesome and you know, you have all the things you ever wanted.
Yeah.
I see that future very possible.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, a lot of the messages that were delivered to me by these visitors were the classic catastrophic, you know, if humanity doesn't get its butt in gear, it's going to be dire consequences for the earth and geological consequences. And now we're starting to see all this stuff happen. And
what did they say some of the problems were? Did they say it was, you know, environmental? Did they say it was, you know, political, too much, you know, ideologies in the world? Or was it, you know, a government issue?
They called out politics and they called out religion.
Oh, interesting.
They said they're the same thing, basically. Which they are, kind of, yeah.
Oh yeah, I know. They definitely they are when you get to certain fringe levels. Yeah. I don't feel like it's always that. I do see some people believe in religion truly, and then I see other people use religion to push a political ideology or vice versa.
Absolutely.
Mud Rabbit said, and some are just studying us as we live. I don't think all of them do these experiments. The ones that do are just plain scary.
Yep, that's true. Hello.
Hey, Divine Tiffany. Thanks for stopping in. I appreciate it.
As far as some of the stranger experiences, as far as getting messages about people needing to get their rear in gear.
I'm going to say, were there specifics in these religions and politics? Were they very specific, or just the whole topic of religion and politics?
It was the whole religion ordering every aspect of your life to the point where you don't think for yourself.
So people that use it like a crutch.
Right.
Yeah. Like without religion, your life would crumble.
Right. It's the sole basis for the whole thing holding you together.
Yeah.
And I've been in that same boat. I've been there where that was the tape holding me together. And you need something more substantial than your religion to really build yourself on. And that's kind of what their message was, is that it's going to take more than what your spiritual beliefs are now to get through what's coming for you.
Well, and I think when people are actually understanding religion's right and they don't have all the other ideologies mixed in with it, of man's persuasion, I feel like the bettering of yourself is the first thing you can do in any religion, and then you worry about saving everybody else. If you are broken internally and you're trying to fix everybody else, or you're trying to fill everybody else's cup and yours is empty, it's hard to do. And that's why I feel like people go, "Oh, it's okay because I'm a Christian, or I'm a this, I'm a that." It's okay because I'm trying. I have good intention, but sometimes they don't realize that you can't help other people before you help yourself a little bit to a certain
Absolutely.
extent.
And I think that that's where a lot of people's mistake begins. Even the best intending people, you can easily see the quote faults with other people and in other situations. You don't see what's sitting right in front of you and in your situation quite as easily.
Oh yeah, Mud Rabbit, you're right. A lot of them definitely don't have our best interest at heart.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to spirits. I've never told Billy about this, but I used to dabble with a Ouija board a lot when I was younger,
Oops.
and I pick up really strong energies when I'm using a Ouija board. I can use it with like one other person, and we don't actually have to even touch the pendulum. It'll move under our hands. And I've met some pretty dark people. I've met some nice people, and I used to treat it like a game. And it was like we were talking about earlier when we were talking about the people that get to have these alien experiences are the ones that are willing and open-minded enough to do it. And I feel like it's the same with possession and meeting spirits as well. Like there is a certain level of openness that you have to have, but there also should be a respect to what you're doing, because most of the time people go into it like it's a joke, or like, no, nothing bad could happen to me, and they're just like, oh, prove your existence to me, and it's like shaking your hand in the air and saying, "Smite me, oh mighty smiter," and seeing where it takes you.
Oh, man. I think we've all had that moment where we've come to God, whatever we believe God to be, and yelled at him.
I know that almost everybody in religion has to have reached out at some point and been like, "Prove yourself to me. Like, give me a fucking sign. Like, give me something." I grew up Christian, but I kind of fell out of it when I got older, and it was one specific story that actually kind of broke me. It was my teenage years. It was the story of John Lott, I believe was his name, or Lot was his name. But he was this guy that sacrificed his daughters to get raped over some angels. And I was like, no, I'm not going to ever sacrifice my daughters or my daughter or anybody in my family to save God's angels. I feel like God should kind of put his own hand in. But then the guy was, considered a good guy in the Bible because he let his daughters, offered his daughters up to be raped over the angels. And I was like, well, yeah, I guess. I mean, if you think of your daughters as a possession and you're able to do that, I mean, and that puts you, good in the eyes of God. That was the one that I always had trouble with. And I've always studied religion. That's kind of what I've always been interested in, all different ones. And I don't know, I've never really found one that's truly for me, but I like to know about all of them.
Yeah, that's basically kind of what I do.
No religion has all the answers, information, but when you take them all into consideration, you get a broader picture. Yeah, that's true.
Yep.
Should at least understand them.
Yeah.
They go into it for sport.
Yeah, they do. Ghost Adventures is this Zach Baggins fellow. I don't usually call anybody out by name, but he's trying to make some stuff mad. It's going to have a bad experience one of these days.
Do you think it would make him mad?
I think that the types of entities that would play the game would just enjoy the game. They would just toy with him.
I could see it.
Because I have seen some people, um, when I go into an investigation or go into a house to do a clearing or a cleansing or anything like that, I never try to provoke anything that's there because I don't necessarily know what's there.
Oh yeah. And you don't know until you get farther into the conversation and oh my God, I don't know how many times I've been tricked by or attempted to be tricked by spirits as well. They're not always upfront and be like, oh, this is who I am. Amanda, I'm doing good. Billy, she was asking how everybody's doing today.
I'm doing awesome.
Hope you're doing good as well, Amanda.
But yeah, I mean, they play games. Hello, Elegant Mind.
Hello, Elegant. Thank you for stopping by. The good guys don't play.
Yeah, that's true. The good guys tend to be more to the point. If they have a message to deliver, they usually tell you that they have something they need to say. If they need you to do something for them, they probably will keep bothering you until you figure it out. But these entities that want to throw stuff and pull hair and scratch you and cause physical harm, that's when you have to start looking at it and be like, okay, something's going on here.
Well, and I don't know if there's any reasoning behind it. It's understanding it is what where we find ourselves at that lapse. It's like, why are they doing these things? It's always that question of why. Why am I getting abducted? Why are these things happening to me? And then when you get a bizarre action like that, you're like, all right, this doesn't make any sense. Why would a higher being do this?
Right. It's like, what is it about me that made me stand out to anything? Or did they just randomly roll the dice? I don't believe in coincidence, but did they randomly choose me twice, two separate beings? But I don't.
But you wouldn't associate it with a coincidence. You expect it to be that.
Right. It's more of a commonality.
Okay. One comes with the other usually.
Right, because then things start happening. Bam, bam, bam. You start seeing like little things like repeating numbers and repeating phrases and the same song on the radio like 15 times in a row, you swear.
Well, that just explains our FM radios nowadays. Our stations, they only have 15 songs on repeat.
That is true.
So there's a good chance you're hearing it many times.
That is true. But you start to pick up on these
But the numbers, a lot of people have talked to me about this, seeing reoccurring numbers, especially large ones of repetitive numbers.
Yep.
A lot of ones is what I hear the most.
I see 1118882.
8882.
Yep. 1118882. Doesn't mean anything to me.
It means the end of it meant a little bit something to me. That was weird.
Oh, does it?
A little bit. The fallen coming from the sky to choose wives of the woman of earth, breeding all kinds of things that don't make sense. Yeah, that's the idea of the fallen angels, or these beings coming down from above and mating what they are. Whether they're angels, whether they're higher beings, who knows? Yeah. Or what their intention is.
Exactly, because what is his name? I watched the channel Gaia. Some of it I snicker at, just because some of these people, you wonder where they come up with this stuff. you question.
There's
Because
only one guy on Gaia right now that kind of got me in a headspin, and I want to hear more about his story. But it's the guy that he claims to used to live with the Atlantean race.
yes, he was
And
the guy that I was going to talk about.
oh, okay, yeah, he's the one I'd want to know more about because I don't know enough about his story. I do like I like astral projection. And I do hear a lot of stories about people astral projecting to that time and place and
Right.
describing the events going on. And I don't his doesn't really fit in any of the other narratives that I've heard, but there's some similarities, and I'm like, oh,
Right.
okay. But I still got to hear it out more. I just haven't heard enough of his story because I got to pay to hear it too. That's the other stipulation.
Yeah. He's really interesting to watch. I mean, just some of the stuff, and it's just so detailed, and you're just sitting here going, it is like he remembers it. You're just sitting here going,
Rewind. Say that again.
it is like he remembers it because he's just spitting it out. Either he took a lot of time and effort to really hash out the story in his mind, or he may have something legit going on there. One way or the other, it's really interesting what he comes up with.
Oh yeah, no. Regardless, if it's a story or experiences, it's told very well. I'll give him that much. The little bit that I've heard, it's told really well.
Absolutely.
I mean, I've gone through a few. I've had a lot of interesting or people that I've been interested in the UFO field, the experiences field. I kind of have a love-hate relationship with David Wilcock, and he has. I don't know if he's no longer involved with Gaia or not. But for the longest time he was, and it's the same with Corey Good. Corey Good is the other one that I kind of have this love-hate relationship with because the more I look into alien stories, the less and less I hear about blue avians only coming from this teller of this species that he describes as the blue bird-like creatures. I've never heard anybody else tell me about them or tell another person about them. And I always think it's interesting when one person runs into a species that nobody else finds.
Right. My good friend, she had an experience when she was probably about 7. Her and her stepbrother got up on the porch of a friend's house, and this little entity walked out from behind the wow chair. Walked out from behind the chair and scared the crap out of both of them. And she described it kind of as a goblin type creature. And I remember her telling me that story, and a lot of people have described small little creatures, but never the same one. And I wonder sometimes about those same people always describing something so radically different, and they are the only ones that are describing it. I don't necessarily question what they're saying, but it does make you wonder.
Oh yeah, no, it definitely does. Because we were talking about all the things that could be interpreted, whether you're talking about an extra dimensional being, whether you're talking about aliens, whether you're talking about angels, demons. The other thing I didn't even think of when you were describing something smaller was cryptozoology descriptions.
Right.
Whether you're talking about Bigfoot, because the more I hear about Bigfoot or Sasquatch type beings, I think of them as extra dimensional. I don't.
Make sense.
I mean that to me would be the only way to actually describe that being. I have one person that I follow quite regularly that goes by the name of Andrew Bashiago, and he was involved with Project Pegasus when he was younger, where he was actually photographed at the Gettysburg Address as a child. I ran into his father there, who's also a CIA member, and yeah, he's got some interesting stories. One night he was at a campground and was playing ball, and his ball rolled away, and a younger Sasquatch picked up the ball and like threw it back to him, and he ended up having like this short conversation with a younger Sasquatch, and I'm like, oh, okay, like I need to hear more about these. And he grew up in the first place for it. He was in the Washington area, so
Yeah, that's where I live.
Sasquatch country.
Yeah, I've seen a Sasquatch because, oh God, what year was that? 2007? Was it 2007? We had the big fire in this area, and it ate up a lot of the natural habitat for a lot of things. And I was just sitting in my living room where I'm at now on the phone with my friend, and it was twilight, and I see something across the street on the hill, and then it stood up, and it wasn't a bear because it wasn't built like a bear. It was built more like a human, but it was huge. I just remember thinking, of course, I'm on the phone. My camera's not going to do me any good right now. And so, but I've seen it in this area, and I've heard of others in this area seeing it, but it disappearing so completely without a trace makes the extra dimensional thing a lot more sense.
What I don't know how close you were to it, but do you think they have a smell to them? Because some people like to describe them as like the skunk ape and stuff like that, and they often describe a smell associated. Did you ever pick up anything like that?
I didn't smell anything. There have been times, especially around here, and it could be just about anything really, but I've gone outside, smoked a cigarette or something, and it's just been dead quiet. And there has been like a smell to the air that was pungent. But that could be anything. I mean, we're a farming community, and farms have cows and sheep and all that other stuff, and they use different chemicals. But you shine a flashlight across the street and towards the hill, you just see eyes at night.
Oh, that's enough to give anybody cold chills.
Yeah, so when it's quiet out there, I'm like, what's out here with me? This house, I've lived in it probably the longest out of any of the places I've lived. I've lived here since 2005. And I've had everything happen here, from seeing aliens here in the house to seeing the spirit of my dead grandmother here in the house.
Oh, wow.
And I think it's because we have a huge rock across the street, which is chock full of quartz, and we have an underground river right next to us. And those things are said to enhance those sorts of experiences and tendencies. And I think it just is like the perfect storm to live in a house with those right there, to have supernatural events take place.
Yeah, it just adds to the energy.
Mm-hmm.
So, you described the gray species of alien that you encountered. What were the other ones that you encountered? Said there was more than one.
Yeah, I have encountered the group that are usually called the Pleiadians. They didn't call themselves the Pleiadians to me. They didn't actually address themselves as anything. Slightly taller than humans, blonde hair. Okay,
like an avian type depiction.
Yeah, blue eyes, extremely piercing blue eyes. Well built. Not like
Adonises of the alien races.
Yeah, we all wish we looked that way.
Yeah.
It's like, come on now. But and it was a warning in 2018 that I believe now was referring to COVID. And it was a warning that man was going to unleash upon itself its own death and its own desires. And I'm a conspiracy theorist. I believe that we concocted COVID and that it accidentally got loose. That's my take from the few things that have been said by certain Congress members. And little snippets that I've gotten here and there, and I am open to things that would prove otherwise, but it just sounds real fishy to me.
I have to give you the heads up. This is one of those things that you're not allowed to talk about on YouTube because,
Really?
oh yeah, and we have to let everybody know that we are not doctors, and any of what we are talking about is just speculation on what's going on.
Yeah, I am
So I have to give that disclaimer just so we can keep the video up. But yeah, no, I have a lot of thoughts on that. Yes, and it's very interesting what's going on. But I feel like it's starting to come out a little bit more all across the U.S.
Yeah,
We're learning more about it as time passes. No matter what side of the aisle you're on with it, we're learning more about it.
Right.
If you're on, a hesitant side or a non-hesitant side, it doesn't matter. It seems like regardless, we're getting more knowledge of the situation
Absolutely.
as time passes.
I had no idea they had implemented that rule. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah. There's people have to talk in emojis about it. People have to put spaces like the chat will get I've seen people's channels get pulled off because of the chat talking about it.
Oh wow.
And it had nothing to do with the guests that were on the show. I like it mindset. I'm going to catch up the chat a little bit here. I don't know if I really believe in Bigfoot. A lot of YouTube channels try to say they're investigating, and then it turns into a print. Yeah, a lot of ones, and that's just clickbait. I also feel like because they know it's a popular topic, and they're also using it to take advantage of it. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no problem, Tiffany.
Absolutely.
Thank you for keeping us in the background and listening. Yes, I had a conduit under my yard and NC. Added all kinds of energies to the property. Oh yeah, I bet it could. I feel like especially depending on what the conduit is, and then other things that have happened in the area / are going to happen in the area. I mean, there's a lot of things that could tie into it, whether you're talking spiritual or extraterrestrial or even dimensional.
And the fact is, they're probably all intertwined to the point that it's all going to look the same when it happens.
My aunt has a story about Bigfoot experience in Florida, but I don't remember how it goes. Don't think she wants to share it with the world. Yeah, well, I mean, and most people they feel like it's something they don't want to talk about because they're going to get judged over it. So it's totally understandable. To be fair, aliens have been trying to warn us all along to take better care of the Earth. People just don't care. And well, I also think aliens will step in enough to make sure that we don't destroy this planet. I feel like they would wipe us off before they would let us destroy the planet. I feel like they care more about the planet than our species.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I can't say I blame them either.
Whatever. They can't discuss it, say it, type it, or use emojis that stand for it. Yeah. It's a touchy topic.
And they wonder why they get knocked off the air on occasion. Oh.
Yeah, exactly. Jeez. Where were you when Facebook and IG and all of them went down for almost 24 hours? Gosh, I heard a report about that today, and it was the first time it's happened since almost 2007. That was that big of a time gap off. I thought that was interesting.
That's crazy.
Not for IG, but for Facebook in general.
That's crazy.
It was a stream. They buried a conduit for the stream to go under 3 properties and out down the hillside. There are advanced types that have the mechanism and tech to clean it up in a short time. Yeah, I don't know enough about that. Mud Rabbit has a lot of rabbit holes, ironically, that she likes to travel down. Mud Rabbit likes her rabbit holes, and she gets on some very very good ones that I didn't even know about.
Hey, rabbit holes can be fun.
So, did you consider those avian type beings to be more positive? Like, do they only have good messages, or did you get mixed feelings from them as well?
I got mixed feelings from them. I felt more like they were ambivalent.
Say that again.
Ambivalent.
Oh, okay.
More like they were just like there. Oh, if you keep doing this, the planet's going to be destroyed by your own actions. And it's like, okay.
Like wise guardians that weren't going to interfere. They were just trying to. This is how you need to live your life, but at the same time, they weren't going to do anything to
do this instead. But so it's one of those things.
Elliot Mike said, I don't care about Facebook, Twitter. I don't even have IG. I wasn't aware that any of them went down. LOL. Yeah, no, I don't have Twitter or IG either. I'm little old in my years. I only have YouTube and Facebook. So we had the ability to go on YouTube, and a lot of the people in my community decided to start up lives, and we all went on there and talked. Made our speculations if Facebook was ever going to start up again. Or I was convinced that maybe next time it started back up that they were going to charge people like $1.99. Like they're going to start with a real low charge, and then if everybody wanted to get on, you get $1.99 for a month. People are already sucking up a Netflix fee for entertainment. I could see YouTube presenting one, or Facebook.
Oh yeah, I could see them.
Any way they can make money. I don't do Facebook. I peek at Twitter without an account. Oh yeah, I see them only if they're popular tweets that have made it onto other platforms or make it into my newsfeed kind of thing. But most of the time, I'm not scowling Twitter.
Yeah,
I don't know. I always thought it was weird. It was for people to follow other people, and I don't know. I feel like it's weird to idolize somebody or to be that interested in somebody else's life.
Right.
I feel like there's a healthy balance to it.
It's true. You can even have too much Facebook.
Oh no, I was born in '89, so it's not that far off. I also barely dabble with stuff in the internet. No, I remember when they came out with the free AOL discs when I was younger. You could they gave them in magazines, and they had them on like magazine stands, and it was like a free trial version of like AOL 1.0. And oh gosh, my daughter was listening to a song the other day, and it had like the dial-up noise in it, and she was like, "That's so annoying." I was like, "You have no idea. I used to have to do that every time to get on the internet." And I feel like anybody that's been on the internet long enough knows that noise. They can just recite it. The dial-up noise.
Yes. It was a common noise to us ancient folk. You know, they consider 80s music to be the oldies now.
Oh, do they?
I'm like, really? I am not that old.
I was born in 1956, Mud Rabbit says. Being outside was the big thrill. Well, yeah. Kids are way different nowadays. The attention spans are insane. Such rapid information and taking it in on such a strange level. and the way that information travels. Just something happens, everybody can know about it in such a short period of time. Whether they believe it or not is one thing, but they can get presented with it.
True, very true. And that's the other thing with the internet is that you can on an instant start researching something. Could be a
Oh yeah.
reliable source, could not be a reliable source, but you could
Oh yeah. No, you're immediately an expert on it. I've watched 7 YouTube documentaries, and now I'm an expert on this subject.
yeah. It's just like, wow.
Thanks, Eddie Bravo. No, I always that's what my love-hate relationship with Joe Rogan is. He had a great platform and getting a lot of very intelligent people on there that were experts in their field, and then he would also let Eddie Bravo ramble for 30 minutes about a flat Earth, and I was like, all right, we're kind of going down the dark path here. You can't be this bearer of information and then also let people talk about the Earth being flat. I feel like we've gotten past that.
I know an actual flat earther, and it's just so sad.
Well, and I see, because I studied enough of the flat Earth theory and the stuff around it to know where it went wrong and what people fall for. People fall for the fake science of it. A great example is always measuring the curvature of the Earth. There's this isle in England where it's over a mile, and you're supposed to be able to measure the curvature of the Earth in that spectrum. And they say they tested it and it didn't work, but they're never able to repeat that actual test that everybody always references. And it's like, oh, okay, so yes, you're trying to point to science, but for some reason that science can't be repeated. It was just an experiment that happened one time, and it gave us this result, but it's not repeatable.
They do that a lot with science, I've noticed.
Yeah, it's a common practice.
I'm like, strange.
It's weird how everybody could be all following the science at the same time, but all have opposing and different ideas. It's interesting.
Absolutely. All I know is that I got that thing that we're not allowed to talk about, and it sucked.
It sucks. Why? You got to elaborate a little bit more with that.
Well, I'm talking about the actual illness.
Oh yeah. No, that I could imagine it's different for everybody too. That's the other thing. And you never know until you actually do have it. I think I actually got it before. I think I got COVID before it started.
Right.
I actually had it. It was before they had tests though. And I just remember I was like at a point where I was out of the state that I live in. I was camping, and all 4 of us that were there got to a point where we were literally like coughing up blood. Our throats hurt so bad. I had never been in that kind of like an illness, like with the respiratory something hurting so bad. And and we were all just run down, and we were all camping we were out in the woods for 2 weeks in what I would call Sasquatch country. Blah, blah, blah. My tongue's getting in the way. And yeah, you couldn't see 10 feet in front of you. And at the same time, we're just like laying in our tents in the middle of these woods. And we're just like, oh my God, I feel so miserable. Like, what is this? And then literally 2 months later, COVID was the thing. And I was like, oh, maybe like it's possible. I do show signs of having the antibodies. I donate my plasma. So I can only point. So when I say you can't talk about things, you can only point to exact science things. I donate my plasma at a local plasma donation center, and they've encouraged me not to change my lifestyle because I show signs of having antibodies, and they have actually offered me more for my plasma. So I do what those doctors tell me to do, because they're the ones advising me about my blood work that they've seen. So that's the only experience I have with the whole situation.
Absolutely. No. I'm a little bit nervous. I have surgery next week, but they're going to do a test for it. And it's so close to when I had it, I might pop positive, even though I'm not.
Well, and you can, and I mean, it's showing signs that a lot of people can get it a second time, or even more than that, depending on depending. So, I've always had this theory, which I don't understand how people think differently. I can't think of a virus on the earth that we've ever cured.
No.
I mean, whether we're talking herpes, whether we're talking anything, I've never heard of viruses going away. I've heard of us putting up a common defense to them and doing our best to eradicate them from society. You know, that seems like common knowledge to me. But the people that claim that there's a cure to things, I'm like, wait a minute, what? A cure? I was like, well, I mean, we can better suit society to take care of it so it doesn't affect us the same way, and those are the tools that we can implement to help each other and help society as a whole, so that we have less casualties than anywhere else. But it's hard. It's hard.
Really is.
It's hard to tell people that this is the answer when it's the best answer that we have. It's not always going to be exactly what you want, but at the same time, it's the best that our science has at the moment, and we're working with what we got, and we're going to keep advancing as we go. And that's what me and you were talking about, is at least people are learning through this whole thing, and hopefully at the end of it, everybody comes out a little more tolerant of everyone else. That's the least I could hope for.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. See, my parents were not clued in because I grew up in a strict Christian household, so they would just tell me I had a nightmare. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, exactly. It's always fun. Any of these things that we've talked about tonight, when nobody wants to sit and actually hear what you have to say, it's so frustrating. Any of the things that we're talking about.
So one night, I'm sitting in the emergency room at the local hospital. I've injured my ankle. And I have a spirit box program on my phone.
Okay.
And so I think to myself, well, my friend's mom died here. I wonder if I can make contact with her. And so I called out her name, and her daughter's name popped up on the screen for this spirit box program and scared the crap out of me. That's the kind of stuff that goes on in this little town.
Did you get cold chills about it? Were you excited about it? Like for me, so when I reach out for certain individuals, when I'm doing any kind of communication, my biggest thing is I have to ask. I always have these like safety questions in my head of like, only me and this other person would know the answer to these. Maybe other people, but nobody that would be picking up, I say, the phone. Nobody that would be answering the call that I'm putting out. And so I always have these super personal questions that I'll ask just to get acknowledgement that I'm talking to the person that I'm talking to, because of the stupid decisions I made when I was younger, being too willing to talk to people.
Yeah. Yeah, I did that too. I think everybody has. At least a good portion of my friends had a Ouija board story when I was in high school.
Well, and some people have stories where they touched it and nothing happened, and then some people have stories where it's like, oh wow, I never touched that again because of the story that I had, and then there's the in betweens. But yeah, I have a respect for them now. I have my own like one that I made that I keep around now, but I wouldn't use a store-bought Ouija board ever again, probably.
Yeah, the whole idea is a little weird.
Yeah.
It's a board game, ages 8 and up.
It's a game for your kids.
You too can summon Satan.
Right. All of a sudden, your cat's climbing up the drapes, and you can't explain what's going on in your house. Furniture's getting rearranged, all because you bought your kids a game.
Yeah. Strange things like that have happened associated with playing with things that opened doorways. But it happens with stuff way more easily than people think it does.
Oh yeah.
You
Well,
play
and I was you had told me about your interest in demonology, and I was always so I didn't give you this little backstory about myself. Um, I was a big I was greatly influenced and interested in Aleister Crowley,
Oh
and that
wow.
got me down a road where I was learning more about all the people surrounded with Aleister Crowley, including L. Ron Hubbard.
Ah.
And it got me actually down this 5-year path of studying Scientology
Oh
and actually um, I've talked to Scientologists in California. I've gone to the church in Chicago. I don't believe in Scientology. I 100% don't believe in Scientology. I believe they rewrite the definitions of words to confuse people, and especially about the meaning. It's very clear in their writings because they actually if you heard a Scientology story word for word that wasn't from a Scientology book, it wouldn't have the definitions down at the bottom that re-explain the words that you wouldn't understand otherwise.
ah.
Because you need L. Ron Hubbard telling you what these words mean at the bottom of all of these texts in order to understand it. But what I was interested in from L. Ron Hubbard was his past regression therapy, what they call uh, what's it called, where they hold the cans and actually get those readings.
Oh wow. Oh
And they used to be able to tell people about past regression therapy. And he talked about that before he ever came up with Scientology. And that was something he was interested in Aleister Crowley and his study and hanging out with Aleister Crowley. So I found out that they were friends. And that was my favorite question to always pop on the Scientologists when they got a little too deep for me. I was just like, hey, do you know anything about Aleister Crowley? Like, I know him and L. Ron Hubbard were friends. Like, I didn't know if you guys have any information about that. And they were like, oh, no, we don't talk about that. Like, we don't bring up that side of things. But when you talk about conjuring things, I mean, he was that guy that was conjuring things into our existence. When you talk about like some of the original demonologists, I feel like Aleister Crowley's got to be in that conversation.
absolutely. Absolutely. Um, but he definitely played with some stuff that, wow. I wouldn't go there. Um,
You wouldn't go where?
he played with some stuff, and I wouldn't go there. He was
Oh yeah,
interested.
no, he's like what we were describing. He was so willing to have anything show itself. I feel like he was that person, but did it on a large scale.
Yes,
Like
absolutely.
the best example is when he stayed in that one house for a period of time and did the summoning ritual
Right,
that everybody references.
right. And houses like that themselves take on a taint, let alone the people who are doing it. It's like, what kind of energies did he pick up playing with that stuff? And I wouldn't say he was playing with it because he was deadly serious about it.
He was deadly serious about it, but I don't think he. I mean, do you really think?
Kind of nonchalant, though.
I would say, yeah, it was a. I don't know. It was almost a willingness to be possessed by something greater than himself, and he didn't
Right,
care what the effects were. Like he did
right,
respect the higher being itself, that what he was willing to have manifest. But I don't know if he knew the severity of it
right,
or cared about the severity of it.
right. It's very reckless just to haphazardly let anything you want speak.
Target mindset. My parents would always say, "You're not allowed to do this or that because it opens doors to demons." I would be like, "Okay, mom." I mean, I feel like a lot of parents overplay it too. At the same time, there's a battle to it, but I also think there should be a healthy respect for it because if parents know about Ouija boards, I do think that's kind of asking for trouble if you don't go in with a healthy respect for it, just like anything else.
Absolutely. I mean, tarot cards used inappropriately can have the same negative effect.
Well, Billy, I'd like to keep talking to you if you got the time. I want to take a brief intermission. If
I
you
We have to be going.
Oh no, it's not a problem. We'll have to catch up another time and do a different interview and maybe a part two and get a little bit more.
Okay, absolutely.
But I appreciate your time tonight. It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. I had fun too.
All right. Well, you guys have a good night. Everybody in the chat, thank you for tuning in. And I will talk to everybody later. Billy, thanks again. And we'll talk to you soon.
All right, take care.
Have a good one.